Right, welcome back to the Young Fan Podcast and welcome to another League One roundup on this Sunday morning. I've got a little bit of a cold. I do apologise for that, but it doesn't stop us. It does not stop the show. 4 selected games for you this morning, looking at them from a tactical perspective. How did those games pan out statistically? How did they look? And also breaking down the goals and all of the big moments. Let's get into it. Are you happy with your team's performance yesterday in League One? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'll be replying and responding to all of them as per usual. Join the Discord server, link to that is in the description down below. League One chat, and of course we do the fan call-ins every now and again, so if you want to be part of them, make sure you join that server. And finally, I'm going to the Charlton and Portsmouth game on Monday. So technically, we're doing a roundup a little bit early because, of course, that game is the final League One encounter for this match week. But that's on Monday. So I thought we'd do a roundup on the Saturday. For the Saturday on the Sunday. But, of course, we're going to the game between Charlton and Portsmouth. That's going to have its own video anyway. So I do apologise, Pompey fans. I do apologise, Charlton fans. But you got your own episode on Tuesday, because I'm going to the game at the Valley on Monday night. So Cheltenham versus Bristol Rovers is where we're going to start, and for me this game was won in that first half. Rovers 4-0 up at the break. Cheltenham, not the best 45 minutes that they'll have this season. An exceptional first half for Bristol Rovers, pouncing on the individual mistakes, you'd say, of Cheltenham. Looking at the league table now after that result, Bristol 11th, only 3 points from that top 6. They were down in that relegation zone just a couple of weeks ago. They have turned it round, unbeaten in their last 4 and 3 consecutive wins on the bounce. Really, really impressive stuff. Now 5 wins from those 14 games that they've played. They have conceded 24 goals, but they're scoring goals, 22 in total. And like I say, that first half was where this game ultimately was won. 4-0 up is the perfect first half, an exceptional first 45. And there were individual errors for Cheltenham, and that will be where Wade Elliott's got to look at the performance again. He's got to go, right, what went wrong in that first half? Second half, I mean, Cheltenham, they won the second half. I mean, it's not much of a consolation when you look at the scoreline come the end of the game, but they did look better in the second half. And Bristol Rovers ultimately probably did take their foot off the gas, as you'd expect when you are 4-0 up. You don't really need to be going at full pelt like they were, in the first half. You can see, looking at the graph here, we always look at the momentum graph, the attacking momentum graph to be specific. I mean, the first actually sort of 10-15 minutes of the game, it was actually Cheltenham on top, and then the first goal came fairly early on. I'd say 15th minute, Aaron Collins, 23rd minute, Anthony Evans, Bobby Thomas makes it 3-0 in the 42nd minute. Aaron Collins gets his second of the game in injury time of that first half. Aaron Collins, once again, the key man. We speak about how Collins is so important to this Bristol Rovers side. Such an exciting attacker, and his output is absolutely brilliant as well. For an attacker to score the amount of goals that he does is really, really impressive. And once again, he proved to be really quite significant in this performance and in this result. A really, really clinical Bristol Rovers. You can see by looking at that first half. This is the first half. 51% possession towards Cheltenham. They had less shots, Bristol Rovers, compared to them. 5 in total, but 4 on target, and they were 4-0 up. So clinical when they had their chance. You can see by looking at the graph as well, when they had their chance, they took it. And you can see by looking at the stats here, Joe Barton's side, really, really clinical. 52% possession, 5 shots in total, which is 2 less than Cheltenham, 4 on target, and of course they were 4-0 up. They were so clinical in front of goal, and when their chance came, they absolutely took it, and that's what you need to do. It won't happen every single week, but if you can do that, you're going to put yourself into a really good position. And Joe Barton's boys, they did exactly that, because at 4-0 up, they ultimately had already won the game. Pretty much, let's be honest, they pretty much had won the game in that first half. And ultimately, it puts them in a really, really good position. As for Cheltenham, they've got things to improve on. Ultimately, they've got to cut out those individual errors. We watched the goals back. They weren't great at all, in that first half. Second half, a little bit better. You can see by looking at the graph here, 20 minutes into the game, Cheltenham, or 20 minutes into the second half, they looked okay. They're pretty on top. Bristol Rovers actually had a chance to go 5-1 up because they did score fairly early on from the penalty spot. Literally in the 54th minute, Liam Sercombe, and then Cheltenham finished the game the better side. But the game, like I say, was done by then. The points were sealed, and they're on the road back to Bristol. So we'll go with that. And I think Joe Barton will certainly take that as well. Finally, like I said, we already have looked at the league table, but looking at Cheltenham now, 2 losses on the bounce, just outside that bottom 4, 14 points in total. Only 2 points separates them from that relegation zone. They have got a game in hand on Forest Green Rovers. So that's that. I mean, like I say, Wade Elliott got work to do there, but Joe Barton, they are climbing up that league table rather quickly, and that's going to be a real positive for them. So there we go, that's the first game. Cheltenham against Bristol Rovers finishes Cheltenham 1, Bristol Rovers 4. So MK Dons versus Plymouth Argyle is the second game we're going to be talking about. It finishes MK Dons 1, Plymouth Argyle 4. We'll start by looking at MK Dons. You can see by looking at this league table, congratulations Plymouth, still top of the table. For MK Dons, you've got to scroll down quite further, 22nd in the league, 4 defeats on the bounce, 10 points from those 13 games, 9 losses in total now, 3 wins, 1 draw, 21 goals conceded, only 13 goals scored. It's been a really, really bad start to the season, a horrendous start to the season ultimately for them. Liam Manning, I looked at the news this morning. He seems so far to have kept his job. There's a lot of rumours about him potentially getting sacked if the result didn't go their way yesterday. It certainly did not go their way. That's a polite way of putting it. And Liam Manning does remain in charge. And I really rate Liam Manning. I look at what he did last season. I look at MK Dons last year. They were absolutely brilliant. And you can't compare them to last season. They were high-flying. They were playing some brilliant football. They were scoring goals. They looked like a really dominant side week in, week out. Dominating when it comes to possession, shots on target, dribbles per 90, passes per 90. They were really, really good at building up play from back to front. This season, nothing alike at all. And 3-0 down at half-time. The first half killed them. They had a couple of chances. Actually, apparently, according to Liam Manning, I watched the highlights. I didn't completely see it, but apparently they looked okay for the first 10 minutes of the game. But, they're 1-0 down within 9 minutes, so they'd say up to that goal. Morgan Whittaker scored again in the 9th minute to make it 1-0. Neil Ellis makes it 2-0 in the 25th minute, and then 37th minute, Finn Azaz makes it 3. All of those 3 players having a really good start to the season, aren't they? Morgan Whittaker on loan from Swansea City looks to be a really good player. Finn Azaz on loan as well. He looks really exciting. He got 2 goals. He scored again. He scored the 4th goal in the 60th minute on the hour mark. But Will Grigg did get a goal back in between that as well. So, look, maybe you could argue a little bit of a comeback potentially when you scored just after half-time, MK Dons. But ultimately, the first half was where the game was won. They looked really, really good, Plymouth, in that first 45. And like I say, remain top of the league. Domination when it comes to possession, 58% to 42%, 16 shots to 10, more shots on target, exactly the same when it comes to shots off target. You can see by looking at the big chances, 3-1, more passes than MK Dons, and by quite a few as well. Accuracy of passes, much better, accuracy of long balls, much better, and many more. It just was a really, really, once again, exceptional performance from Stephen Schumacher's side, and it's what we expect now. It's what we expect. This is a season that gets better and better. The squad, that front 3, Azaz, Whittaker, Ennis, that number 9 could be anyone. Ryan Hardy and Cosgrove on the bench. Ennis steps in, he scores. They've got options. They've got lots and lots of options, and that's not just in the number 9 position. They've got them as those 2 number 10s. They can play. To be honest with you, they can play Ryan Hardy or Cosgrove in those number 10s really, because they're quite narrow attacking midfielders and almost shadow strikers at times. Matt Butcher, Houghton, Randall, a strong midfield 3. You look at the side of MK Dons, they look like they don't really know what they're trying to do. Lewington now trying to play as that central centre-back. They've got Bradley Johnson and Josh McEachran as those 2 central midfielders. That front 3, they've rotated so much, they can't really find out what's best for them. Looks like that they still can't. Will Grigg, like I say, did get a goal back in the 49th minute, but the game was killed off literally 10 minutes later when it was 4-1 through Finn Azaz. He was the standout performer for me. They remain top of the league, and Ipswich losing, we'll come on to Ipswich in just a few moments' time, but them losing certainly does help them, and they now are top of the league by 4 points, of course level now when it comes to games played with Ipswich, and Sheffield Wednesday, 5 points ahead of them. Portsmouth got 3 games in hand on them, but that gap now is really looking quite big. Of course, Pompey can claw it back on Monday night with a result against Charlton, and of course they've got another 2 games in hand on top of that. But for Argyle, it's a really, really good win. The form, the winning run, it only does continue for MK Dons. The pressure is piled on, and the question has to be, at what point do you say we're in a serious relegation battle here and there's a serious chance of us going down? I know it's only 13 games into the season, but you do have to look at it and go, is there a way back, or is there a way of improving under the current management, under the current situation, under the current scheme? 4 losses on the bounce suggests probably not. We knew Plymouth Argyle were going to be the favourites. Actually quite tight when it comes to the bookies. Plymouth did better specifically, but it was far from close, was it? It was far from close, and it finishes MK Dons 1, Plymouth Argyle 4. Liam Manning remains in a job. I can't see it being long, though, and I rate Liam Manning. What he did last season was really good. His style of play is excellent, but you can see by looking at the graph here, they were absolutely dominated, and the home side as well. This is the home side being absolutely wiped off the floor. It's embarrassing. And what do they say? It is the home results that cost the manager more. 4-1 at home. It's not looking good. Right then, let's move over to Ipswich as they hosted Lincoln City. Was this the shock result of the weekend? In League One, of course. I'd probably have to say it was. I probably would have to say it would be. I didn't think this result was going to happen. I'll be completely honest with you. And I don't think many Ipswich fans thought it would either. Nor Lincoln City. But it finishes at Portman Road, Ipswich 0, Lincoln City 1. We'll come onto the graph in a second because you can see it was an absolute domination from the home side. But they didn't take their chances, did they? They didn't take their chances. They weren't clinical enough, and that ultimately cost them massively. Let's have a look at the league table. We know where Ipswich are, second, now 4 points from Plymouth, who are top of the league. Lincoln, I just can't get my head around their season. I can't get my head around their campaign. They are inconsistent. They've won some huge games this season. They've got points at some huge grounds this season. They've lost some silly points and dropped some silly points. But they make it up with some incredible, incredible afternoons, like yesterday, at Ipswich, where they win 1-0. Their season is absolutely all over the shop, and I love it. I think it's so funny and so exciting as well. But I think it is bizarre. I think it is quite funny and bizarre because they're 13th in the league. They've now actually won 3 wins from their previous 5. 17 points in total. They're only 4 points off that top 6. Well, I don't think they're going to get in that top 6. I don't think they're going to get in the playoffs. But I do think you've got to respect the fact they were dominated yesterday, but they held strong and they absolutely grinded and dug deep to get a result. Ipswich, they knocked on the door, 76% possession to 24. This was what I like to call an absolute domination. But we knew that. Ipswich, the home side against Lincoln City, they were going to get dominated, Lincoln. And Ipswich were going to try and get as much control of the game that they physically could. And they did. 33 shots. But the key stat here, and you know exactly what I'm going to say, 5 shots on target from 33 shots is not good enough. Is not good enough. Now, 5 shots on target against Lincoln, Ipswich, the quality that they've got, and the home side, that probably should be enough. You'd ideally want more, but that should be enough. But with 33 shots in total and only 5 on target, that's very poor. Very, very poor. Only 3 less shots than Ipswich. And they had 30 more shots in total. So you can see they were not clinical at all. They created chances, but they lacked that clinical edge. Shots on target, 3 from 33 shots is absolutely, it's disgraceful. But now you look at the result. Now you look at that result, it's not good at all. They did everything but score. You know, they had more set pieces. They had 14 corners in the game. They hit the woodwork twice. They had 2 shots on 20 shots inside the box, 13 outside the box. The goalkeeper had to make 5 saves. The Lincoln City keeper, he had a really good game. Carl Rushworth probably would be their man of the match. And that defence really did hold strong. And they had to dig deep. They had to really grind through those difficult moments in the game. And there were quite a few difficult moments in the game. Pretty much the entire second half, they were under the cosh. But what we always speak about when you get your chance, let's take it. They played quite direct, Lincoln, but they were forced to play quite direct, play the long ball. Ben House makes it 1-0 in the 24th minute. But like I said, they were going to have to play direct, and they did that. That's how their goal came. But the second half, they didn't really touch the ball. Look at this second half possession here. 82% possession, 18% towards Lincoln in that second 45. They didn't touch the ball. 24 shots, only 3 on target. That's the half where they hit the woodwork twice. You can see by looking at the graph here, pretty much the entirety of that second 45, Ipswich were just going at them, trying to chip away. Another chance, another piece of momentum, another bit of forward-thinking play from them. But they couldn't score. And Michael Owen in me is screaming right now. You can't win games when you don't score goals. Very rarely you win when you don't score goals. The attackers let themselves down for Ipswich. Marcus Harness, Connor Chaplin, Fredo Dapo, all 3 players I'd say have had a good start to the season. They weren't great yesterday. They weren't great. They really did lack that clinical edge. Kyle Edwards came on in the game as well. Caden Jackson, John George, all of these attacking players tried to get thrown on, tried to change the game. It wasn't to be, and it does finish 1-0 to the away side. A little shout out to Lee Evans for Lincoln City. Carl Rushworth for me is that man of the match. Adam Jackson also had a really good game for Lincoln, but for Ipswich, he did have a really good game. I wouldn't say he got a 9.1 rating. I think that might be going a little bit too over the top, considering they did lose the game. But his heat map, he was all over that midfield. 173 touches in one game. 86% pass accuracy. 6 key passes across the 90. He also had 4 shots. 2 on target, 2 off target, hit the woodwork as well. He did look lively in the midfield. I wouldn't give him a 9.1 rating. I probably would give Rushworth man of the match, considering his goalkeeping performance was so pivotal in Lincoln getting a result. But Lee Evans, he does deserve a shout out. He was the lively man. He was the key player for Ipswich, but they did everything but hit the back of the net. And for them, it's a big blow. It's certainly an upset. And you look at their sort of title race. Can we call it a title race after 14 games? Certainly their plan to just stay in the pack and keep that gap as small as they can. That's a really disappointing one for Kieran McKenna. I'm just looking at my notes here. I don't think I've missed anything. Ultimately, the bottom line is Ipswich couldn't take their chances. Shots on target was their big problem, and they lose the game. And that proves, anyone can be anyone in League One on their day. And if you do have an off day where you're not as good in front of goal, you could get punished. And they got punished. So it finishes 1-0 to Lincoln City. Did not expect that whatsoever. But fair play to Lincoln. Fair play to them indeed. So Accrington versus Derby County is the final game we're going to be chatting about in extensive detail. Derby, they get the job done 3-0 away from home. You can see by looking at the league table after that result, Derby still 9th, but that win does give them 20 points in total and now only 1 point from that desired top 6. As for Accrington Stanley, they do now fall down to 17th, 2 defeats on the bounce, 16 points, 5 defeats, 4 wins and 4 draws. Not a great afternoon for Accrington. 2 missed penalties. We'll come on to that in just a second. But looking at the key player, we don't normally start with the key player, but I think he deserves a little bit of notice as quickly as we can. Can we bring it on full screen? Don't think we can. William Osalua, the striker, on loan from Sheffield United. 2 goals in the game. I watched his goals back. He looked like a powerful, pacey number 9, replacing James Collins, of course, who is suspended. He got sent off against Port Vale a couple of weeks ago. And Osalua, he stepped in and he was really, really good. I was so impressed with him when watching the goals back, watching the extensive highlights, treating myself to the extensive highlights. He was strong, he was powerful, he was clinical. The power in his strikes were absolutely superb. No chance for the goalkeeper for either of his goals. He was the key man in this game. You can see 2 shots on target, 2 shots off target. He did miss a chance in the game, but they won't talk about it. He could have had a hat-trick, but they won't talk about it, and we don't really need to because the goals he did score were very, very important. And either side of Accrington Stanley missing 2 penalties. Sean McConville, the key player for Accrington. He's the player that I always go, watch out for him. His goal contributions down that left-hand side, the skipper as well. He's the man you've got to watch out for. Missing 2 penalties. The first penalty horrendous, saved by the goalkeeper. It was not a good penalty. Second penalty, not much better. Missed the goal completely. This is the first one was on target. Second one not on target at all. It goes wide, sort of scurries out on that left hand side, past the post, and And then, of course, there's a big chance, there's a big moments in the game. Ultimately, they could have been 2-1 up in the 38th minute. They weren't. They were still 1-0 down, and they had some significant moments. And those were fairly big. Those were fairly big. In terms of the penalties, in terms of analysing the penalty decisions, Derby have sort of been surrounded by referees giving penalties. It was 2 against Port Vale, I believe, another 2 this afternoon. Clumsy in the penalty area, Derby, clumsy in the penalty area. Of course, the question marks will be, are they actually penalties? Ultimately, they're giving away 4 penalties in their last 2 games. Was Port Vale their most recent game before this one? Yeah, of course it was. So, again, that's something that they're going to have to look at. First penalty is quite a tough one to call. I tried to slow it down, tried to zoom in on it. It looks a little bit clumsy. I wouldn't. It's not a clear penalty. It's not a clear penalty. The referee will have the best eyes on it. The liner, I think, actually gave it because he sort of paused again, similar to the Port Vale decision. So he didn't give a penalty. Looked over to his lino. The lino must be flagging, and then he goes and gives the penalty kick. It doesn't look absolutely nailed on, but you can see there was collision. He sort of dangled a leg as he was sort of... it was almost like... It's really weird to explain. It was sort of Accrington getting into the penalty area and then the Derby man sort of going, not through him, but sort of tripping him up as he sort of runs past him, if you like. Yeah, it wasn't clear. And if it was obviously a trip, then it's definitely a pen. But yeah, it wasn't easy to call. Second penalty, no doubt, a definite penalty. Curtis David, centre-back, the experienced central defender, the captain, of course, gives away a very clear trip in the box. I mean, he got booked for it. It was definitely a penalty, not many complaints either. And Sean McConville, like I say, steps up, off target, not a good penalty again. So they didn't take their chances. And you look at the XG, I think their XG actually was, 2 point something. Of course, the penalties is almost, I think it was close to 2, but of course the penalty is, I think, a 0.75. I think that's what an XG for it is. I think it's 20. You get a 75% chance of scoring a penalty. So I think it was over 1.5 with their XG. Accrington, because of their penalties, they couldn't take those chances. And by the way, Mendes Lang for that first goal was really, really good. He drove into that midfield, and the pass to Asulu was absolutely incredible as well. And again, the hard work of Asulu to make that run to finish it off was matched. But Mendes Lang, really good, I thought, in the game. We know the power that he's got. He's very physical, but also pacey winger. He's pivotal in that opening goal. Moving on to the second half, you can see by looking at the graph here, both sides sort of had moments in it, and then Derby killed the game off in the last minute, the 8th minute of injury time. Tom Barkhuizen, who joined on a free transfer after his release from Preston North End. The goalkeeper sort of spills the original shot, and then Tom Barkhuizen is there to slot it away into an open net, and the game is done. It finishes 3-0. And Derby with a better side, you'd say. I mean, they weren't really dominant. You can see, actually, 55% possession to Accrington. They weren't ultimately really dominant, but they were clinical when they had those chances. 14 shots, and again, not many shots on target. Accrington only 1 from 8, and again, you can't win a game of football against Derby County with 1 shot on target. You can't do it. It won't happen. I know Lincoln didn't have many, but nor did Ipswich, and that's how Lincoln won the game. 1 shot from 8. When you have 55% possession, you should probably be doing a little bit more with it. It's not easy because you look at the way Derby play. Back 3 of 5 in front of them, and then again the power of the 2 strikers or the attacking midfielder. But Lewis Doblin sort of plays as that sort of false 9 or quite shadow striker. So yeah, it's not easy to create chances. Of course it's not. This is a very good side with some great players, but 1 shot on target in the game will not win you a game of football or get you anything from a match against a quality side. 45% possession to Derby, but like I said, they weren't in domination force, but when they took their chances, when they did come forward, of course, they're pivotal. And they made the game 3-0, and that sealed it off. And it finishes Accrington Stanley 0, Derby County 3. Accrington will be ruining those missed chances, those penalties in particular. Derby County, they'll be coming away thinking we put things right after that disappointing home loss to Port Vale. And now, like I say, and like I mentioned when we look at this league table, only 1 point from Barnsley and Bolton and Shrewsbury, who make up the positions from 9th to 6th. So it's very, very open, as we know it always is in League One. It's a good result for Paul Warne, and he knows the importance of putting things right and getting back on track, because they couldn't let that Port Vale result derail their season. It easily can derail a side season, but they made sure it didn't. So fair play to them. The finish is 3-0 to them. On the road as well, to a banana skin Accrington side who don't normally get beaten as comfortable as that. But quality told, and I think clinical finishing also told as well. Right, we always look at the other results. We always look at the other games, because we should do. We should also look at the other ones. Wycombe 3, Peterborough United 1. They're 1-0 down, Wycombe, in this game. But again, they came back. Peterborough, a bit of an upset, ultimately, you could say. Peterborough, of course, in that top 6. Wycombe certainly not in that top 6, but now back-to-back wins for them after that victory over Oxford United last weekend. 3-1 in the game. Good comeback. Get the 3 points. Sheffield Wednesday, comfortable, convincing in their result over Cambridge United. Cambridge's bad run only continues. Now brings it to 4 consecutive defeats for Sheffield Wednesday. They stay and remain in that top 6. 2-0, clean sheet, job done. They'll go back to Sheffield happy. Bolton versus Barnsley. We said this had a draw written all over it in the other preview I did on another channel, on the Cornish Janner channel. Definitely go and check that out. We spoke about every side going into this season. That video I don't think is out yet, but when it will be, go and check his video out. I said this has got a draw written all over it. I actually missed it in the predictions and the preview show. I can only apologise. I think I actually said Bolton will win this game 1 or 2-0, but I actually said later on in the day I think it probably will be a draw. You look at the league positions of these two sides, it's 0-0. Bolton, very dominant in that first half. Second half, slightly more even, but you'd say Bolton with a better side. They weren't able to win the game, and it is goalless at the University of Bolton Stadium, rather. Excuse me. Port Vale versus Forest Green Rovers, 2-2 in that one. Port Vale much better in that second half. First half, quite up and down. In fact, Forest Green Rovers were 2-0 up in that first half and going into the break until the 78th minute, when it was 2-1, and then Ellis Harrison makes it 2-2 from the penalty spot with just 2 minutes to go. We spoke about Exeter versus Oxford United. That match reaction is on the channel right now. Do I need to apologise? Do I need to say sorry? Carl Robinson in. Oxford United are going to win the league. Probably not, but it is a good result. It is a good result, and I didn't expect it. And to score 4 goals, we can score. We can score. It is possible. Burton 1, Morecambe 1, the bottom 2 teams going head to head. I thought Burton and Morecambe would draw this game. I think I did predict a 1-1 draw. It did finish 1 apiece. As for Cheltenham versus Bristol Rovers, we spoke about that one. And finally, Fleetwood against Shrewsbury. Not a great day for Scott Brown and for those Fleetwood Town supporters. 1-0 to Shrewsbury for them. Their good run does continue, and their really good league position does continue. I say good run, they've been quite inconsistent, but really it has been a fairly good start to the season. I would say it has been a good run for them. Not consecutively, but they're 9th in the league, and they're only, I believe, not in that top 6 because of goal difference. Very, very impressive stuff. And ladies and gentlemen, this has wrapped up my Sky Bet League One weekend review. It is the roundup, and it's a Sunday morning. It's a lovely day, by the way, on this Sunday morning. Got a little bit of a cold, a bit husky, but I think we've got through it. And hopefully you've had a good weekend as well. If you did like this content, you want to see more of it every single Sunday, and you don't want to miss it, hit that notification bell and subscribe as well. Remember, I'm going to the Valley on Monday night to film a really exciting episode with Tom from 4-0 written all over it. I'm also on 4-0 Sunday Live. It's a Tom takeover for me this weekend and Monday. I'm on 4-0 Sunday Live discussing the Charlton and Portsmouth game. And then on Monday, I'm at the ground, outside, chatting to supporters. And yeah, it's going to be a good night. I'm looking forward to it. And looking forward to meeting Tom as well in real life, properly. All these collaborations, never met him in real life. So I look forward to that interview, of course, with him outside the ground. So I look forward to it. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been Jack. This has been the Unfan Podcast. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I'll see you on Monday as well. I've got an episode coming out on Tuesday and Wednesday, hopefully. The voice is going to go. Let's cut the cameras. Take care, everyone.